should I be doing those extra strategies? Should I just find a way to mitigate my risk and be able to go through and be very strategic with my investments? Can I create cash flow streams to support my lifestyle? But then at the same time, what do I do with the rest? How do I mitigate taxes? One of the biggest theft there is out there.
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
How to become a good operator is a journey. First, in my own journey, I was doing the rent to rent, right? And then I only can handle 7 houses myself. And I don't trust anybody. I don't want to hire anybody because I'm not going to give anybody the contact of my landlords. And how going to give the key of somebody of my tenants if they steal a laptop? What's going to happen? I live from there. So then it's myself doing 7 houses, making a lot of money by myself. I'm working parallel in the Hilton, Canary Wharf, yeah. But I'm so tired that I said, well, you know what? I'm so exhausted. I have to grow, right? Now, from the second phase, when I'm growing the company, Mathew, and I have 14 houses, right? I brought people in. I'm making the same money and I have more headache, including people stealing from me, same like you, right? And when a small company like this, Mathew, somebody take like they did to me, like over 4,000 pounds. I was in London, right? It's tiny company, but not also that the guy I went after for me working 4 years in the business back to back and making it work and things like that. I go for a week of holiday and I give the keys to someone that was for 6 months doing very well. I go for a week for holiday, the only week that I'm gonna rest after all this huge process. And I go there and the guy goes, put an ad, with the rooms are very cheap. Of course, everybody called there. And the guy collected 1 month rent, 1 month deposit for everybody. And then when I arrived to London, he took all this money and have a queue of 12 people for 1 room that my company is responsible for.
Oh man, that's tough. I totally understand. That's tough.
How
this happens all the time.
That is not someone that I hired like 15 days and I did that. It was already working and we paid them good money, always in commission time and everything. Well, you trusted someone, say, okay, let's give to that person this. And then the guy take out the money, go to Spain. So and come back from that, Mathew, financially and mentally, I'm thinking, what's the point? I'm not hiding people anymore.
Right.
And then what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna play small. So again, exactly what you say. It's a process and you need to go through that process if you want to grow. And ultimately, I had to compromise. I said, look, these things might happen. I just need to learn how to be a good operator, exactly as you described, and try to bring the right people to organization and try to optimize things and to protect, right? And it was eventually happened that my property business was running by itself finally, and even my manager sent me home. But it's not an easy journey, right?
Yeah, for sure.
From I started the business, Mathew, until the year 4. In the year 4, my manager Eva told me, Harry, go home. You need to come to the office anymore. We grow this business without you. Travel the world if you want, do whatever you want. I will come, my manager, I will come once a month to tell you how we do in this company. We do this, and because they were renting the room better than me, and they were finding the houses better than me. They were doing everything better than me. So, but it took me time, Mathew, and a mental process to come back emotionally. So, especially when you are growing, But the other thing, Mathew,
totally
like I said, I'm thinking I'm going to expand. And now I have 14 houses, I have people in, and my money is the same because I had to pay salary, I had to pay thing, and I'm thinking, did I do the right thing here?
Right. And
So
I think when
then,
when you're going through
yeah,
that, you have to learn to scale. In order to scale, you have to hire those people, because you realize you can't just trade your time for the money all the time. You're going to have a job for the rest of your life. And every entrepreneur goes through that initially because we think, oh, we don't have money to do it. We got to do everything ourselves and take care of it. Right. And then you realize, hey, when you have a bad experience and you go through a lot of bad experiences with employees and contractors and people you work with, right, or subcontractors of yours, and when you go through those things, you want to just say, forget it. It's too complex. Let me just take a step back and like, I don't need all that, right? I don't need, let me just get by with what I'm doing right now, and I don't need to do anymore. But then at
with
some
the same
point,
money, I was making the same money.
right, right.
I think
And
it
at
was
some
the
point
point.
though, yeah, if you want to really scale though, it's a matter of you have to set up those systems, but have proper segregation of duties so that, and those funds control type situations. That's one lesson that you're never going to forget, where you're going, wait a minute, they are never having access to the money again, across the
It
board,
happened
right? So like,
18 years ago. I'm still sharing the story with you.
yeah, yeah. See, it's still painful. You never forget the times you took a hit, for sure. The good ones, great, they go past, right? But the bad
And
ones
good
that you
news
don't
is
forget.
4K. Back on the day, Matthew, 4K was like a fortune, It's
Right.
something like, whether today, I mean, we can, I think we haven't lost 4K, 8K, we can take it. But back
Right.
then it was like a big lesson. So
Absolutely.
then, Matthew, the other question that I want to ask you, which is important, is for our audience. One thing is to make your first million, okay? Making money, be a good entrepreneur, okay? You start to your business, you start to bring money, okay? Completely different ball game is keeping the money, because to keep the money is not about being good entrepreneur. You have to become good investor. In this podcast, we have people make money, make millions, lose it, make millions, lose it, make millions, lose it. Clearly, they have the capacity to make money. They have the capacity to find a product out there, to get it to product market fit, to sell it, to articulate the value, and they can make money. Okay. Now, one thing is making the money. The other thing is keeping, right? And we
Mhm.
discussed this a lot in this podcast, and I would love to see your view on this. This is what I always say, right? I always say to somebody, let's say you own a restaurant. So my colleague now is launching a vending machine business, right? Okay, fine. Let's suppose that you have this business and you um is getting cash, right? What if you take some of this money, you buy a property at a good price with the right strategy, okay? Now, this property, after you pay the mortgage, you have a good cash flow. Guess what? Take that money and use it for marketing in your own business. Because if one day COVID comes, anything happens, industry change, a
Mhm.
lot of things to having the business, and you have all your eggs in one basket, right? Which is totally different what you're doing, because
Right.
with the knowledge you have in property, you should deploy your capital in property, and look at you buy gold, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're
Mhm.
diversifying, right? Because, and then I'm telling that to entrepreneurs. So if one day something happened with your business, at least you have the assets producing you uh, income, right? So,
Yeah.
Matthew, when do you realize, Mathew Owens, when you realize, oh, it's not enough making the money? I thought that I'm making a million, I'm making 10 million, and that was it, I'm done. When do you realize that was the second part of the equation, that you have to become a really, really good investor, that you have to learn how to mitigate risk, that you have to deploy capital in different industries, and you have to diversify, otherwise you won't be able to keep all this money that you're making? When you realize that?
So I think when you realize that inflation is going to continue and your $1 million, say you're making 10% on that, and you're making 100 grand a year, that's not really enough to live off of in a lot of places in the world now. It is great to live off of in many places. I just went to Vietnam and it was amazing there, but
Oh yeah,
the
absolutely.
and
The
you
prices
go
are
through.
amazing. Yeah.
Right, right. You see the prices, but in a lot of places, if I'm in Southern California, you can't live off of $100,000. As I mean, with two kids and a family, right? In Southern California, you need more than that to be able to live, for the most part, right? You can live cheaper and definitely do it, but to live in a middle class household, I'd say that's the general understanding. Now, and you realize like, hey, once say you have a couple million or more and you're doing well, and you're making more money than your expenses are, and you're doing really good from a financial standpoint, you realize, oh, wow, there's a lot more risk than I thought out there with regard to the economy. You start looking at ways to protect your money any way you can, and not necessarily take massive risks like you might do when you're building your million or your couple $1 million. You might be willing to take massive construction projects or other big deals to get there faster, right? But once you have it, it becomes, should I be doing those extra strategies? Should I just find a way to mitigate my risk and be able to go through and be very strategic with my investments? Can I create cash flow streams to support my lifestyle? But then at the same time, what do I do with the rest? How do I mitigate taxes? One of the biggest theft there is out there is taxes. And so being able to, we implement strategies like with our short-term rentals for clients where we just had a client put 300 grand down on a short-term rental that'll make them 10% in cash flow. But what's crazy is they're getting a $276,000 year one tax deduction that they can take against their W-2 wages. And so it's really these strategies to mitigate taxes in every way by front loading depreciation or structuring your business in multiple ways to be able to mitigate those taxes is key from a risk mitigation standpoint of keeping your wealth long term, right? Because you start making more money, all of a sudden you want to be able to compound that and keep up with inflation, right?
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.